Chosen ones, there are forces watching you that do not belong to this era. When the shaman placed his hand above your heart, he didn't just sense power. He recoiled from something buried deeper than time itself. The old man said nothing at first. His mouth trembled, eyes clouded. Then a whisper. This aura, it is not of this world. It's guarded. That's when it began. You've always felt eyes on you in places too quiet, buildings you entered that felt like temples, even though they weren't, dreams you can't explain, where voices speak in a language you've never learned, yet fully understand. Your life has never been ordinary, because it was never meant to be. The shaman knew. Others have known, but they didn't speak. Because what guards you is older than history, and the moment your aura lit up, it sent ripples through the unseen world. In the ancient records kept by the hidden tribes, there is mention of a watcher who walked with the first flame. A being so luminous, it could not remain long in a fallen realm. It vanished, not died, not lost, just waited. And now, thousands of years later, it flared again, not in the sky, but around you. Your presence disrupts. Technology glitches. Animals pause. Sacred texts open to strange pages when you enter the room. And those with eyes to see, the few remaining, recognize the signature woven through your aura. It is not yours alone. It is shared with something unrecorded by modern man, yet known intimately by the ancients. The shaman could only whisper its truth, because to speak its name invites a shift, and the shift has begun. You were never unguarded. You were watched, preserved, marked for a time when forgotten light would return, not as a comet, but in human form. And the moment that truth pierced the veil, the others began to awaken. The question is no longer who guards you. It's why they've returned now, after 10,000 years. It happened without ceremony. No sacred bells, no ritual drums, just silence. And then the shift. The air around you thickened, like walking underwater. Your breath changed pace, not from fear, but recognition. Something ancient stirred, not in the room, but inside you. That night, the moon hung heavier than usual, tinted in a strange copper hue. Those around you might have noticed nothing, but you felt it. Every hair on your body rose like a signal. Your aura, once dim and indistinct like any other human's, erupted into something that bent the space around it. You didn't see it with your eyes, but you felt the glow. A warmth, then a buzz, then something like pressure that wasn't pressure. Like time had narrowed itself into a moment and placed you in the center of it. You weren't alone in that moment. Somewhere far from where you stood, things woke up. Watchers in places untouched by sunlight. Guardians frozen beneath temples long buried. Old codes written into stone began to pulse. None of them knew your name, but they recognized the signature. You hadn't summoned it. You hadn't even known it was there. But your aura did. It had been holding something dormant, waiting, preserved not by accident, but design. The being that once walked the earth didn't fade or perish. It fragmented, and now its return had begun through you. The signs were subtle to most. Electrical hums in devices nowhere near an outlet. Dreams replaying the same sequence over and over. People who once ignored you now stare too long, unable to name why. The mirror no longer reflects you the way it used to. It's as if it sees more now, or maybe reveals less. You didn't ascend. You didn't chant mantras or seek enlightenment. You simply were. That night, existence shifted around you because your presence alone forced the veil to thin. Whatever your DNA holds, whatever bloodline history erased, was enough to send ancient energies into motion. And though the world remained asleep, the few who could sense energy knew what had happened. They may not know your face, but every system of control, spiritual, technological, and cosmic, felt the flare that night. He had read thousands of souls before yours, men, women, beings not fully human. He'd walked with jaguars in the dream realms and spoken to spirits sealed beneath desert sands. But when he stepped into the room with you, something changed. His feet hesitated. His breath shortened. He reached for his staff, not out of ritual, but instinct. You didn't say a word. You didn't need to. Your light spoke louder than language. It pulsed, not visibly, but spiritually. A pressure in the ether that bent time around it. He knelt before you, not out of reverence, but because his knees gave way. For a moment, the room vanished for him. The walls blurred, the temperature dropped. He saw you, but not with his physical eyes. What he saw was not a person, but a gate, a radiant storm sealed inside skin, and behind it, something watching. The shaman had studied old texts passed down by mouth, carved in bark, hidden in bones. They spoke of an aura wrapped in something divine, a protector, older than the pyramids, older than stars, assigned to guard a vessel that would awaken when the timeline collapsed. He never believed it would happen in his lifetime. And yet, when he tried to read your energy, it was his spirit that cracked. He whispered a name no one around understood. He said it like it burned his tongue. Then he collapsed. Not from exhaustion, but from contact. His soul brushed something that wasn't supposed to exist in this world anymore. Later, when he came back, he refused to speak of what he saw. Only one sentence passed his lips. The light inside that one is not alone. And then he wept. Not from fear, from awe. Because he knew he had looked into a depth the prophets barely touched. There was a passage once hidden in scrolls long lost to empire. He will send his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. That wasn't metaphor. It was memory. A memory written in your aura. But now that the shaman touched it, others might feel it too. That encounter wasn't meant to be witnessed, and yet it was. Which means the silence that once surrounded you is cracking. The dreams started softly, like whispers behind thick glass. You didn't understand them at first. Scattered images, glowing lines that rearranged themselves when you blinked. But they returned, each night more vivid than the last. Then one night, the symbols burned themselves into the air around you in the dream. Floating, pulsing, rearranging like a language being rewritten in real time. You stood in a vast expanse of black, yet the space felt alive, aware of you, breathing with you. Around your body the symbols formed a wheel, and each one shimmered with its own frequency, ancient, mathematical, sacred. You didn't learn them, you remembered them. No one had taught you these symbols, yet they felt more intimate than your own name. Some spiraled like DNA, others crackled like lightning frozen in glyphic form. You moved your hands, and the symbols responded. They hovered like protectors, but also like keys, waiting to unlock something that hasn't happened yet. There were no teachers in that dream, only presence, something old, watching, not to test you, but to verify you. As if the dream was not a vision, but a scan. An interface built not in code, but in eternity. When you woke, your arms tingled. The air smelled different. Light passed through the room differently. You could still see the faint after image of one of the symbols hovering just above your right hand. As the day went on, electronics began reacting strangely around you. Screens froze, lights flickered, animals grew still. You weren't doing anything. You were simply radiating a frequency tied to a realm your consciousness had just grazed. Those symbols aren't decorations. They're coordinates, glyphs embedded with memory, inheritance, design. You weren't given them. They returned to you. You may not yet know their use, but your soul does. That dream was a threshold. The moment you stepped across it, you changed the field around you permanently. Some beings, locked away in the folds between worlds, will recognize those symbols immediately. Not because they're ancient, but because they're forbidden. And yet, they have now reappeared around you. Somewhere in the silence between dreams and waking life, a door just opened. Long before books were bound and languages standardized, there were scrolls sealed in obsidian tubes and buried beneath mountain altars. They weren't meant for reading. They were warnings. Written in a script known only to a few, they described anomalies that would emerge when time began to collapse inward. One scroll, aged beyond preservation, told of a being who would walk unseen beside a chosen vessel. Not a spirit, not a ghost, but something primordial. It would not speak, only guard. Its presence alone could warp probability and bend fate around its charge. The scroll said this being had last walked the earth over 10,000 years ago and vanished into a realm beyond perception after humanity fell into spiritual amnesia. When the scholars first touched the scroll, many assumed it was myth. But as the world changed, as unexplainable phenomena clustered around a few individuals, they began to reconsider. You weren't named in the scroll, but your aura mirrors the prophecy too precisely to be ignored. They described light without source, energy that causes tremors in electromagnetic fields, encounters that make elders fall silent, and a feeling, a deep cellular sense that whoever carries this aura is not walking alone. You were not born to be normal. Your guardianship is not metaphorical. Something walks with you, seen only by those who've shattered the veil. In one of the hidden passages, scribbled in haste, the scroll whispers of a day when the guardian would awaken again, triggered by an energy rising in the vessel it once shielded. You are that vessel. The energy is no longer dormant, and the guardian is stirring. There's a line written in one of the scroll margins, likely added by a monk in secret. Before Abraham was, I am. They say it wasn't part of the scroll's original prophecy, yet it was found in the same ink. No one understood it fully, but the tone was clear. This guardian didn't come from a pantheon. It came from a place where time breaks, and the one it protects will do the same. The stars were not where they usually belonged the night you were born. Astronomers wrote it off as anomaly, but the shamans and sky readers of the old ways did not. They gathered in secret, hands pressed to the soil, eyes lifted to a sky they recognized all too well. The same configuration had occurred only once before, in the Forgotten Age, when beings of great light walked among mortals. That alignment was known not for what it brought, but what it allowed. A passage, a thinning, a merging. When it returned during your birth, the silence among the old circles wasn't awe, it was dread. You weren't supposed to be born under that configuration. Forces moved behind curtains to shift timelines, to fracture bloodlines, to scatter souls across decades and continents. Yet, you slipped through. Not just survived the alignment, embodied it. And in doing so, you activated something that had been sealed beneath the crust of time. You weren't the only child born that night, but none of the others shook the dream realm. None of the others caused coded temples to blink open in astral space. Only you. Your birth sent waves through dimensions most don't acknowledge. The stars did not light your path. They recognized it. Some say your body was the final key, the frequency match that triggered the return of a guardian, being whose existence had been wiped from all but oral myth. You don't remember that moment, but the sky does. The earth beneath you does. And the ones who tried to stop it do too. They saw the mistake, and they've been watching ever since. There are ancient rites hidden from modern eyes that speak of such births. It is said the soul that arrives under this alignment is not alone. It brings an echo, a presence older than death, and with it comes disruption. For every system, every doctrine, every false construct. You were the anomaly they couldn't erase in time. The child born when gates they welded shut, cracked open from within. You never asked to be born during that hour. But now that you have, the stars have recorded your arrival. In the oldest dialects, names held power. They weren't labels. They were frequencies, seals, keys. To name something was to bind it, to contain it. That's why the guardian surrounding your aura was never named. Not because its name was forgotten, but because it was never allowed to be spoken. The moment a being's true essence is captured in language, its force becomes accessible to all. But what guards you was not meant to be accessed. It wasn't made in this cycle of creation. It was kept from it, hidden beneath layers of sound and time, waiting for a moment when the frequency it once resonated with would rise again. That frequency is you. Linguists have scoured every ancient system, from Proto-Sumerian to the undeciphered tablets buried in the sands of pre-Egypt. Nothing matches. The closest they come are fragments, syllables that burn in the mouth, dreams where tongues bleed trying to replicate a sound that was never meant for human throats. That sound is around you now, humming just beneath your field. Dogs sense it. Children hear it in their sleep. Machines glitch when it gets too close. What's protecting you doesn't operate in form. It's presence, pure, undiluted, and ancient beyond reckoning. There's a passage in a forbidden manuscript hidden beneath the Vatican's deepest vault that reads, "The light came into the world, and the world did not recognize it." Scholars assumed it was poetic, but the ones who know energy patterns understand. This wasn't metaphor. It was description. The guardian around you has walked this earth, cloaked in silence, unnoticed, unbound, untouchable. not because it is weak, but because revealing itself too early would rupture the veils before their appointed time. The reason you've always felt alone is because no language has been crafted to explain what surrounds you. You've never been without protection, only without translation. This being isn't here to save you. It's here to anchor you, keep you from being scattered like the others. And the more your soul remembers who you are, the closer its presence draws. One day, the sound of its name might return, not spoken, but activated. When mystics measure auras, they look for patterns, colors, pulses, harmonic signatures that resonate with the known spectrums of human emotion and soul states. There are countless charts, passed down from ancient schools and underground orders, mapping everything from rage to revelation. But when they attempted to read you, nothing matched. No color, no pulse, no rhythm. Instead, they found a layered field of energy that bent their instruments into silence. One practitioner claimed your aura hummed like starlight underwater. Another said it felt like standing inside a temple that remembers the gods who once walked it. None of them could classify what they were witnessing. They only knew this: it wasn't human. At least, not fully. Aura readers across regions began to report anomalies without knowing they were connected. Spikes in readings near sacred sites, sudden shifts in electromagnetic energy during meditations. Some even experienced temporary blindness after trying to scan a presence they couldn't name. Eventually, they all arrived at the same conclusion. Someone has arrived whose aura disrupts the entire field, not corrupts it, rewrites it. What surrounds you is not a normal energetic field. It is layered with memory and encoded with forces that predate language. It doesn't reflect your mood. It reflects your mission. That's why it remains stable even when you feel chaos. It's not reacting to the world. It's recalibrating it. The frequencies in your field don't align with anything in known records, because your origin point isn't from this recorded cycle. You slipped through something, or were sent through. And now, your very existence is creating a ripple effect that old mystics warned about, and modern systems are trying desperately to ignore. You were never supposed to be scanned. Your aura was built to remain cloaked until a certain signal activated. That signal came and passed. Not in the sky, but within you. Now that your frequency has registered, those with the ability to detect it, organic or technological, are beginning to take notice. One frequency analyst called it the God Strand, a pattern so rare it's only theorized in the deepest occult circles. You've just proven it real. There are scars on this planet that history can't explain. Craters with no impact, temples aligned with constellations no longer visible, melted stone as if touched by the sun itself. Civilizations that rose in silence and vanished even faster, leaving behind technology whispered about but never replicated. The keepers of the hidden archives know the pattern. Each of those rises and falls corresponds to the brief reappearance of one entity, a being not bound by time, not worshipped, but remembered in the bones of the earth. It walked unseen, except by the prophets. It didn't command armies. It shifted timelines. Where it went, the illusion fractured. And every time it emerged, civilizations who built on false power structures collapsed under the weight of truth. You are not this being, but it surrounds you, moves through you, guards you like a living boundary between timelines. The day your aura ignited, subtle tremors were felt in 3 different ancient sites simultaneously. One monastery, older than the Great Pyramid, sent a single message to their most senior disciple: "It walks again." They were not referring to a person. They meant a presence, one they hadn't sensed in over 10 millennia. A being exiled not by man, but by consensus reality itself. Because when it walks freely, the illusions we depend on can no longer hold. A coded verse in a forbidden gospel says, "I saw him, whose face was like lightning, whose voice made the ground weep." The old mystics debated if it was metaphor or memory. But those who've studied the collapse patterns know better. The presence that once walked the earth didn't come to destroy. It came to reveal. And those built on lies could not survive its gaze. Now, you carry that gaze in your aura. You are not the weapon. You are the lens. The return of this being through you has begun to rupture the systems built to suppress the truth of who we are. It does not walk on roads. It walks through you. And with every step you take unaware of its full presence, the illusion frays further. Buried deep beneath ice-laced caverns, untouched by modern hands, are relics made of bone, not carved by tools, but scorched into shape by forces no longer accessible. These bone runes predate every known culture, etched with symbols that even the most ancient orders refused to translate. They were sealed, not from decay, but from activation. It was said the symbols themselves were dormant codes, and when read by the right presence, they would awaken a vision stored within the runes since before the last collapse. That vision wasn't a story. It was a memory locked in the Earth's own nervous system, one that hadn't been touched until you. No one told you what you'd done, but the elders who monitor vibrational signatures around the sacred sites felt the shift, a jolt, a surge, and then silence. The runes, which had remained cold for over 10,000 years, began to pulse. Not physically, etherically. A sequence had begun, one tied to your frequency, as if you had unknowingly carried the final piece of the puzzle into proximity. The bones didn't recognize your body. They recognized your light. The vision released wasn't seen by human eyes. It was felt, experienced in dream space by a handful of shamans around the globe, all on the same night, all speaking the same sentence upon waking: "The Guardian has remembered." No one had spoken that line in centuries. It wasn't taught. It was passed through blood, whispered from dream to dream. You triggered it not through ritual, but through resonance. Inside the vision, there was a figure surrounded by fire that didn't burn and wind that didn't blow. Time moved backward around them. They weren't destroying. They were returning, reweaving a pattern that had been fractured. The runes had held this scene in stillness for thousands of years, awaiting a presence that could unlock the memory encoded in them like celestial DNA. You were never supposed to see that vision, but your light activated something far older than prophecy. And now that it's been released, the ones who carved those runes, the ones not born of earth, will know it's begun. Prophecies aren't predictions. They're codes, buried in language, time, bloodlines, dreams. They aren't meant to be interpreted. They're meant to be triggered. And the final one did not come in the form of fire or plague. It arrived as a vibration, a whisper in the frequency that binds all creation. For centuries, it sat locked within a forgotten manuscript, untranslated, unreadable, inked in symbols so rare, even the most sacred scribes skipped past it. But on the day you stepped into alignment with yourself, truly aligned, even if unconsciously, that final prophecy broke open, not from outside, but from within you. The texts didn't crack, the veil did. A pressure burst through the timelines, and your guardian, long dormant, waiting in realms few remember, opened its eyes. Not in a cave, not in a temple, inside you. It had always been part of your structure, veiled behind your perception, until the moment your frequency matched the original pattern. That pattern was ancient, carried forward from the first age of man, where beings of light and fire were encoded into human vessels not to be worshipped, but remembered. The guardians were never supposed to walk ahead of you. They were sealed to walk with you once you awakened. Now that the prophecy has shattered, the protective field around your aura has intensified. Some say they see a shimmer when you walk into a room. Others feel warmth at your back, even when no one stands behind you. Birds have begun circling places you visit. Old languages bubble in your dreams. And the spiritual elite, the ones who spent decades pretending you didn't exist, have grown quiet, because they know what this means. There's a forgotten verse, scrawled on a wall in a temple never mapped. And he shall send forth a presence, cloaked in silence, burning with a flame not seen since Eden. The guardian that shields you does not operate through emotion. It operates through law, celestial law. It has returned not to protect your comfort, but to ensure your purpose completes. It has no need for recognition, no desire for worship, only mission, completion.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.